Welcome to Soapbox Derby, the call-in talk show at KALX, Berkeley. To join our discussion, please call us at 510-642-0993. That's 510-642-0993. The views expressed on Soapbox Derby are not necessarily the views of the UC Regents or the staff and volunteers of this broadcast station. Now stay tuned to KALX for Soapbox Derby. All right, and welcome to Soapbox Derby here on KALX Berkeley. I am Jesse Townley, and tonight I'm in conversation with three guests. Actually, instead of just the usual one, to my left, I have Max Weinbach, musician, composer, and actor.
Hello.
Nikki Weinbach, musician, composer, and actor.
Hello.
And Jeff Zamaria, show producer and actor.
Goodbye.
There we go. And we're out.
Not very funny, I guess.
Hey.
Hey now.
Hey now. And they are all part of a variety show that's happening, a live one that's happening this Saturday night called Max and Nikki, the Variety Show. And why don't you tell us briefly about that before we get into the meat of the show?
It's just, it is what it is. I mean, it's a variety show featuring Max and me, Nikki. It's more like a two-man show. We're playing a lot of music, telling stories, doing some sketches, and having some special guests on it, including Jeff, over here, and another guy named Colin Douglas. And it should just be a fun kind of show in the vein of, older...
Smothers Brothers, or, the Dean Martin Show, or,
even Johnny Cash had a variety show at one point, too,
Okay. Sid Caesar.
Sid Caesar.
Exactly. Sure.
Yeah.
Well, we're sounding like we're grandfathers here.
That's all right.
Or my dad, I guess, really, because my dad's pretty old.
Okay. We sound like your dad, who I don't know.
We sound like my dad, whom you've not met, yeah.
Yeah.
But you do have met him, obviously.
Right. But we all sound like my dad.
Oh, Bobby.
He has a lot of accents, I guess. He can do a lot of impressions. And so...
He had his own variety show.
Called the Sid Caesar. Our dad was Sid Caesar, actually.
There we go. But that would explain a lot. And you two are also, Max and Nikki, you two are both also KALX alumni.
Sure.
That is correct.
Yeah.
As well as UC Berkeley alumni.
Mm-hmm.
This is correct.
And you are not you are quite young to be, in terms of being into vaudeville and variety shows and knowing who Sid Caesar is. As a variety show person.
Yeah.
Host. I mean, everybody knows Sid Caesar from...
Your show of shows.
Your shows, yeah. Maybe not everybody.
Yeah, we are quite young to know that. I guess it's just comes from an appreciation of older things and kind of maybe somewhat of a distaste for a lot of things that are popular today. I mean, not to sound pretentious or anything, but I mean, we also were influenced by our father.
No, I mean, I welcome the modern era.
For sure. But there are a lot of things out there.
Well, thank God.
I welcome my fax machine overlords.
I welcome my brand new pager.
But no, it actually comes from a lot from, I guess, somewhat our dad, who is an older guy and as lesser forms of punishment, and he did this with my sister a lot, but us two would force us to learn the lyrics to jazz standards when we were growing up as forms of punishment. And we didn't like it at the time, but we grew to love that kind of music, and it kind of went off from there, just our appreciation.
And went
for
off,
things.
yeah.
So it's kind of a Stockholm Syndrome kind of thing.
Yeah,
You ended up loving your Punisher.
Right.
Oh, right.
I guess, yeah, in a way, yeah. We loved our
the punishment.
The punishment, sure.
I never knew that. That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, right?
Nice.
I didn't even realize
It was
that.
more with my sister, though, if anything.
But
instead of standards, you'd have to learn lyrics to a jazz standard.
But
a jazz standard, you have to learn standards as
Anyway,
opposed to doing
right,
standards.
Right. Gotcha. Took me a second.
But yeah, I mean, and then, it just caused us to want to be more open to just everything that's out there, including things from the past, And that's why we're kind of really into a lot of 50s and 60s, music in general. And
Right, and that's extending beyond my dad's influence. He's not really into 60s stuff, but just, an appreciation for the older things. Definitely 60s stuff. And like I said before, we're definitely into new stuff too, but,
Well, I've always thought that it's important. I think a lot of people just look at pop culture, current culture, as this thing that just plops forward from their speakers, fully formed, and they don't understand, especially with a lot of electronic music, there's a huge amount of musical history that you have to know to put together good songs or good pieces with samples. Like you have to know who Edwin Starr was,
Right.
for instance, or James Brown or whomever, and you have to know them well enough to actually pick something good that has been used to death, for instance, or who the Smothers Brothers are. To, like throw references like into your music.
Sure.
It's like Bugs Bunny or the Beastie Boys. Both of them pull all these different references from their.
Oh, right. I once had a teacher say, "Your art is your relationship to the past," in a way, which is your creativity. He always encouraged us to. He would say, "Eat scores." I majored in music, and he would said, eat scores, basically, and just because you want to get as much in as possible because there's so much out there, and So essentially, what you said,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that kind of and I've been lucky enough to see your last musical. Because you guys also write musicals.
This is correct. I keep
Which
saying that.
Bizarre to me, but that's fantastic. It's very impressive to me.
Oh, thank you.
Anybody who
Thanks.
can-
Me as well.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be impressed with these guys, but I am.
So let's go to go even further back to vaudeville, a music hall. So that's what you're doing a variety show this Saturday, and that's what the ostensible reason we're here. But I wanted to kind of get more into the history behind what you're doing.
Sure, yeah.
Sure.
Obviously, vaudeville, I think a lot of celebrities in the 40s and 50s, they were all at one point in their lives involved in vaudeville. And I think, somewhat, I don't know, a lot of celebrities back then, it required more talent to actually become famous, I feel. And it required a lot of background and performance in a way. I mean, not to undermine the
talent
today, but they were all involved in vaudeville. I mean, James Cagney, even, who a lot of us know as this kind of gangster film guy. I mean, and he was involved in vaudeville when he was younger, and that kind of led to roles like George M. Cohan and Yankee Doodle Dandy. Which was kind of a surprise for people at the time, I think, because of this guy who was seemingly this gangster film actor. And
right, and he pops up in this musical.
Right, pops up in this musical.
Yeah.
And then, as right, Max, before this, you're saying that Desi Arnaz and Lucille Ball
they did the circuit, and they traveled across the country before they had I Love Lucy, and that's how they became famous at first, was through vaudeville.
Yeah, and
even though I'd say at that time probably vaudeville was starting to die down, I guess that the practice of that, but they kind of,
Well, my impression is like vaudeville kind of went from the late 1800s to about somewhere in the 30s.
Sure.
Right.
And then variety shows started up.
Sure, yeah.
And kind of took over. And that kind of went into the modern era with TV and Sid Caesar's shows. And
Smothers Brothers,
Dinah Shore, Bob Hope, Lawrence Welk, Donnie Marie, blah, blah.
Laughing, as Jeff just mentioned.
Yeah, that was my favorite.
Actually, yeah, there we go.
I used to watch that a lot. Like, we used to watch Nick at Night when it was Nick at Night instead of now it's, I don't know what it is now. I haven't had cable in years, but that's how I know about all those shows. My parents would actually watch that, and for some reason, Laughing, I think I just liked the colors, to be honest with you, because it was really, really bright.
Right.
And then the people popping out of the wall, I really thought that was cool as a kid. But yeah, that was my favorite old show.
So yeah, that's the variety show.
Yeah.
Hee-haw?
yeah, Hee-Haw. My mom did like Hee-Haw. My mom, she liked anything country, Petticoat Junction. That's not a variety show, but
that's kind of funny you mentioned
Acres, all that kind of
Nick
stuff.
at Night, because I think, Nick at Night had old shows back in the day.
Yeah, it was great.
And,
Right.
And you younger people like us were able to develop an appreciation
Flip
for
Wilson,
these things.
like that show as well. Like
Flip Wilson
yeah.
show, right? Yeah.
We were able to develop a relationship with these shows, and it kind of informed our own,
aesthetic now,
our aesthetic,
I
and
guess,
our creative outputs, I guess.
Okay, so let's take a quick break here on Soapbox Derby. Jesse Townley, and in conversation with Max Weinbach, Nikki Weinbach, and Jeff Samaria. They are all part of the Max and Nikki Variety Show that's happening this Saturday night over at a venue called Merchants of Reality in San Francisco. We're talking about variety shows in vaudeville and all kinds of stuff here on Soapbox Derby, so stay tuned. We'll be back right after this song.
Step, 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 step.
Step by step, I fell in love with you, and step by step, it wasn't hard to do. Kiss by kiss and hand in hand, that's the way it all began. Soon we found the perfect plan for love. Side by side, we took a lover's walk, and word by word, we had a lover's talk. One word led to another, and then in no time we were up to 10. My heart knew it was gonna end in love.
First step,
A sweet hello,
second step,
my heart's aglow.
third step,
We had a date,
fourth step,
stayed out late.
fifth step,
I walked you home,
sixth step,
we're all alone. Seventh step, we took a chance. One kiss and true romance. Step by step, we climbed to heaven's door, and step by step, each thrill invited more. Then you promised faithfully, all your love belonged to me. Now I know we'll always be in love.
All right, and welcome back to Soapbox Derby here on KALX Berkeley. I am Jesse Townley, and I'm in conversation with three people this fine Thursday evening. You can join a conversation by giving us a call, 510-642-0993. That's 642-0993. In the studio with me tonight, live, is Max Weinbach, musician, composer, and actor. Nikki Weinbach, musician, composer, and actor. And Zeph Samaria, show producer and actor.
And we're all fishmongers also. We're all fishmongers also.
You're all fishmongers. Okay. And
Jeff only kind of is what he's.
Yeah, amateur.
amateur. You're apprentice fishmonger.
Apprentice fishmonger.
He's our apprentice.
And he's part of the Max and Nikki Variety Show.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a variety show. We were talking about vaudeville as well before. So that seemed to be, according to the internet,
Wikipedia itself.
A series of separate, unrelated acts grouped together on a common bill, like musicians, singers, dancers, comedians, trained animals, magicians, impersonators, acrobats, et cetera, et cetera. And then that kind of died out in the 30s, and then variety shows kind of took over. And as we were talking about before, a lot of Hollywood acts used to be vaudeville acts.
Right, yeah.
And actually, one that I forgot to mention, we forgot to mention the Marx Brothers.
I was thinking that. I was
going to say that just now.
Wow. So it's like you guys are brothers.
Yeah. Actually, the Marx Brothers are big influences on us, too. Actually.
Yeah, totally.
We're way ahead of their time, actually. And
Yeah,
Sure.
totally.
And then a lot of these people went to the Borscht Belt, which are resorts in the Catskills Mountains in New York.
Right.
Kind of honed their skill, and then I guess eventually made their way to New York or Hollywood for movies, and then eventually TV. Jack Benny, Burns and Allen, tons of people.
yeah.
Sid Caesar. So your show of shows was from 1950 to 1954. His first, I guess he had 2 variety shows on TV.
Right.
So 1950 is when that kind of really,
Right.
with the dawn of TV.
I was just listening to an interview with Mel Brooks actually about it, because he used to write on your show of shows, and he was talking about how Sid Caesar. I mean, it's just interesting how much they were offering him to do your show of shows, and Mel Brooks was like, "No, come out to Hollywood and do movies with me," and Sid Caesar was like reluctant because he had such a steady paying job, which was compared to now nothing really.
Right.
And basically I think they like quadrupled his pay to keep him in New York, basically, and basically Mel Brooks went off without him, and it's interesting because now not many people know who Sid Caesar is. This is what Mel Brooks was saying, but everyone knows Mel Brooks' movies basically, and he was a little disappointed that Sid Caesar, this really funny dude, didn't come out to Los Angeles.
And he was a dude, apparently.
Yeah.
But wasn't Sid Caesar was in later Mel Brooks movies?
I think
it was in History of the World.
That's right.
Sure.
He had a small role
Yeah.
in History of the World, Part 1.
Yes, I'm still waiting for that part 2.
Right. But as I said, like that, his mass appeal though did kind of die down, I think, at a certain point.
And it's interesting too because you talk about mass appeal, you talk about a lot of these people, and Dinah Shore,
Yeah.
Lawrence Welk.
Even people who already were celebrities, though, I mean, started creating their own variety shows, like
Dean Martin
or Johnny Cash.
Cash. Sonny and Cher, I think, first scored their big hits, and then they created their variety show.
Tony Orlando and Dawn.
Tony Orlando and Dawn.
yeah.
I mean,
There you
got to
go.
go to the top.
Right.
Top.
Which was that was getting into the 80s at that point. So that's, I guess variety shows were a thing for a while, but you don't really see them anymore.
So they have a lot of genres in them of things, dances, animal acts,
Sure,
right,
comedy. So what is in this one, and why is it? Yeah, we'll start with that question.
Well, it's a variety in that the things that we're doing, there's a variety of things we're doing, but it is more of a two-man show with special guests because really Max and I are the main act of this thing.
But we are doing, as you said, a variety of things. We're doing music. There's some choreographed pieces. There's some sketches and storytelling,
and there's also one of those sketches involves Jeff, our special guest, and another guy named Colin Douglas. And
Yeah, we're gonna debut our talk show called No Big Deal, starring Jeff Samaria. I do think that we should have got a trained animal. That sounds pretty cool.
That sounds pretty.
Colin's he's not really a trained.
He's not
animal.
a trained.
not
animal.
a trained animal. He's a wild one.
As soon as you said that one, I was like, yeah, we
He's
we
pretty
need to
feral.
get an animal for some reason. But there's still time. There's still time. It's Saturday night.
Well, there's still time to train him.
Oh, train Colin. Yeah. There's time to do that.
There's time to-
It sounds like a crash course. Yeah. There's a lot of people have pets that can sit, stay, roll over.
We could do a stupid.
Again,
pet
Colin
trick
is
thing.
like a pet, but an untrained pet.
I'm glad Colin's not listening right now.
He's definitely not
If he
listening.
is, he
right
should call.
now. Yeah.
642-0993 and the 510 is the number to call if you want to talk with Max, Nikki, or Jeff about their variety show that's coming up, or anything that we've been talking about the kind of a longer history of these types of shows. So you're doing a talk show?
Yeah, it's going to be pretty brief. They were nice enough to ask me if I wanted to be a part of it, and we've had an idea to do a short talk show for a while, maybe 30 minutes, but we're just going to do a 10-minute version of it, and they're my first guests. I have a co-host named Colin.
Like a live show?
Yeah, like a live show.
Live talk show.
Yeah, we were actually planning on doing it last September, but as things tend to do, they kind of fell through. But yeah, so they were nice enough to let us do it on their show, and yeah, there's going to be a nice audience there, I'm sure. So if it works out, we want to do it more often. So
All right, cool.
Yeah.
I think I'm trying to think. Didn't Chick and John do a live talk show?
yeah, I've actually been to a Rooster Bob live talk show before.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, I like him a lot. Actually, I did totally forget. I went to a couple of his Christmas parties too. Like, just kind of showed up or whatever. Yeah. I like Chicken John. I don't understand, but I think he's all right. Fully.
Chick and John is a New York expat who's been out here for a number of years in San Francisco.
He's been out here forever or whatever.
Yeah.
What I've heard. So
And he is an artist. He's run for a couple different
public offices.
public
right?
offices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Under that moniker,
Chick and John.
Chick and
Yeah.
John.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I worked
And,
hard for it. So
worked hard for you.
yeah.
And he's done similar things, and it's very fascinating to watch game shows, things like that.
Yeah, like the idea was, I know a lot of people in the comedy world or the local comedy scene and stuff like that, so we were thinking about having them on. Yeah, but it's just, these guys like variety shows a lot. I do too, but I was just kind of obsessed with like late night talk shows and stuff like that. So it's just kind of off that model. Like I'm trying to make it as similar as possible, but I don't know. Not as
What's your favorite talk show?
I do like the Late Show. I'm into Conan.
Some-
but I
for
do.
some
I
reason.
So
love
that-
Conan O'Brien, but I do not have cable, so I don't seek him out on the internet. I don't watch
So
him.
he mainly watches David.
I
Letterman.
enjoy David Letterman. That's probably the show I watch the most. Yeah. I just think he's funny. I don't know. I've enjoyed
Sure.
him ever since I was able to maybe stay up late enough to see his face. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
But would you say that maybe,
Which is-
you kind of, I mean, as most people do, have a respect and maybe are influenced a little bit by Johnny Carson's show.
yeah, of course. And I'm actually surprised that you guys don't like Letterman as much as you do, because he seems to be the older humor, late night talk show. I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like his references and all that kind of stuff. He seems to be like your grandfather as opposed to somebody like Jay Leno, who's like the guy your mom's seeing or something like that. For some reason. You know what I mean? But I feel like you guys would like him. I feel like you should enjoy him more. But I understand
Maybe.
that you don't. He's real dry and all that stuff.
He's-
But I
No,
figured
I-
you would like that.
What
kind
I
of
like
thing,
about
you know
somebody
what I mean?
like Conan, especially in his heyday in the mid-'90s, was that he was really absurd. And we just like a lot of absurd
Yeah,
humor.
yeah, definitely.
No,
mean,
I like David Letterman on his older stuff, like when he was on
NBC.
late night, after Johnny Carson.
Oh, okay.
I think he was actually pushing the envelope a little bit more, and actually, I think that's why he was kind of like the anti-talk show, is what they called him actually
Yeah.
at first. I mean, I think now he's just he's funny to watch because he's so silly. Like he just almost like. He just goes with whatever
It's like
it is now.
He's,
It's just like
he's
he doesn't
done
have
his
a,
show for so long. He's
Yeah.
just like, I'm going to do this, and I don't care if anybody laughs. Which
Right.
is
So that is not, however, what's going to happen on Saturday night.
No.
You
No,
do
no.
care.
We
people-
do.
we do care if
what-
people laugh. It is, I guess this show would just have to be influenced by, shows that I've watched of his
Sure.
over the years. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't want to really cut it off, but I
No,
was
Oh, I know,
It
I know.
needed to be cut
Really
off.
sure
were-
where
we
you
were
were going with
cut
that.
I
off.
was
This would've went on too
hoping
long.
that you would cut it off because I was afraid to be the man to do that, and it was going off on a long tangent.
Well, luckily, you have a host here to corral y'all a little bit at least. So, Jesse Townley, that's me. Max Weinbach, Nikki Weinbach, Jeff Zamaria, that's you three in front of me. Musicians, composers, actors, show producers. And speaking of musicians, you did bring an instrument.
I did bring an instrument called a guitar.
Is that what it's called now? Okay.
Yeah.
So why don't we hear
in some circles, it's called a guitar.
in deep? Sure, fair enough. Not really sure what to do with that one. So before we get to this song, we heard a song that Max requested by the Crests.
Right.
Step by Step.
Step by Step by the Crests. The reason I brought that up before was one of the songs that we're going to be singing is in that vein of like this late 50s, early 60s doo-wop kind of thing going on.
In the variety show, that
In the variety show. And as we said before, we have a definite appreciation for the old and yeah, we just love that type of music.
And I guess that's kind of like, to go along with the old-fashionedness of the show is the sense of humor, even though it's, I think our rapport together, Max and Nikki, is kind of has an old-fashioned charm to it. And I think people can laugh and smile at what we're doing because of a kind of an innate reaction to it, where it's not necessarily pushing the envelope in any way, but it's just something that it's an immediate reaction to wanting.
You don't
to
have to
smile
think about it to just laugh,
Okay.
It's almost like just on a very basic level, as he said, an innate level. It's just in your core that you just kind of want to, yeah, like we're so good that you want to laugh at us so naturally.
Yeah,
right?
I know, right? I mean, yeah, not to toot our own horn.
Not to mention how charming it all is.
No, but
very well
I think
dressed.
thank you.
the innocent child in you wants to laugh in a way. I think that's what he was getting at.
And I think those older variety shows were like that, where the innocent child and adults could laugh at those shows.
Right. Well, I mean, you are closely related.
Somewhat.
Somewhat. We are fraternal twins.
So, kind of by definition, it would be assumed that you would have a close relationship and you would finish each other's sentences, or
Right.
interrupt
right.
each other all the time,
Or
which you
interrupt,
do.
which we do.
Which we do.
Yeah.
Have you noticed, as you noticed from this interview?
We interrupt other people too, as well.
You just interrupted me.
And scene. Okay, so what are we going to hear?
We're going to hear a tune by Hank Williams
It's one of our favorites. It's called "I Can't Help It If I'm Still in Love with You."
And it goes something like this. Today I passed you on the street, and my heart fell at your feet. I can't help it if I'm still in love with you. Somebody else stood by your side, and he looked so satisfied. I can't help it if I'm still in love with you. A picture from the past came slowly stealing as I brushed your arm and walked so close to you. Then suddenly I got that old time feeling. I can't help it if I'm still in love with you.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yes.
That was excellent.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you. That was kind of the abridged version of it.
It was well done.
All right.
You.
Yeah, but Hank Williams, I mean, talk about an older musician who's influenced our own music. And
Actually, that song was introduced to us by another fellow former KALXer, Duncan Wold, actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
so there you go.
There you go. It's,
So it's not just our parents that are influencing us,
Yeah.
it's
It's friends and
youngsters
family
as
alike.
well.
youngsters as well. You are tuned into Soapbox Derby here on KALX Berkeley. Jesse Townley speaking with Max Weinbach, musician, composer, and actor. Nikki Weinbach, musician, composer, and actor. And Jeff Samaria, show producer and actor.
And pirates.
And pirates, all.
Amateur pirate.
I'm an apprentice pirate.
Okay. So you're the only one who's a paid pirate.
I am. That's what I do for a living, actually. Aside from putting on variety shows and musicals, we are paid pirates, or I'm a paid pirate.
All right. All right.
The joke's over.
All right. So what is not a joke is that you are playing or doing a variety show one night. So why don't you kind of plug the show and tell people where it is, what they can expect, etc.
Sure. The show is being performed at Merchants of Reality, which is normally an art gallery, actually, but
We're turning it into a theater.
We're turning it into a theater. And Merchants of Reality is located in the Soma at 9th and
In San
Folsom
Francisco.
in San Francisco.
And it's actually it's kind of a cool building. There are artists who live there that work on their art there and put on these art gallery showings there, and they live there and do their art there, and it's kind of a collective unit there, and they put on shows there too.
Right. So it's at 285 9th Street, San Francisco, California. It's playing this Saturday night, December 14th at 8 p.m. That's the Max and Nikki variety show with some special guests. And we got music, stories, sketches, and just a lot of fun.
And a few special guests.
But no trained animals as of yet.
Not this time around. But tickets are $10 and will be sold at the door.
And where can they find out more information? Is there a
At
website?
maxandnikki.wordpress.com.
I'm sorry, could you once more?
maxandnikki.wordpress.com.
That is the Max and Nikki variety show.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on, all three years.
Thank you.
Thanks
you.
for tuning in to KALX Berkeley. You've been listening to Soapbox Derby on KALX 90.7 FM. Tune in every Thursday night at 9 p.m. for a half an hour of Soapbox Derby. See you next week.